Fire Radio.
Hey, and welcome to episode 47 of the Size Up by National Fire Radio, because what you do off the job matters, right? It definitely does matter. And today, this is 47 episodes in. I probably said this before, but this by far has to be the wildest episode yet to record with the wildest guests that none of you probably know, which is even the better part about it, right? Like, I've had some famous folks on the podcast, like out in the world. I've had some famous folks in the fire service. I've had some folks that, run businesses in the fire service and have lots of social media followers and blue checks. And the guy that I'm interviewing today does not have any of that. But what he has is what I could describe probably as I'm not gonna, oh, maybe like he's got a large set of balls, because he actually had reached out to me a long time ago in this totally random Facebook message, and he has the most amazing name ever. So without further ado, Robert Piparo, welcome to the Size Up.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
How was you? I thought you would say thank you for having me, Robert Piparo.
Thank you for having me, Robert Piparo. I mean, we do share a unique coincidence. So,
like one of the most unique coincidences. For the listeners out there that just listen to Pip on the Size Up every week and have no idea who I really am, my real name is Robert Piparo, given to me at birth. When I was much younger, I was known as Robbie to my family. Then around the 6th grade, I told my parents that I didn't want to be called Robbie anymore because it was for little kids, and I wanted to be called Rob. So then I adopted the moniker of Rob for a while. Not that long, but if you knew me from being little, like a lot of the guys I work with do, they call me Robbie. So I have Robbie, I have Rob. And then when I was in high school, my freshman year, first class algebra, brother Francis Chinnery said that he taught my brother and he called him Pip. So from now on, I will be called Pip. And that pretty much stuck till now. So I started the whole 555 thing, and social media and Facebook was happening. And we can't figure out the year that this probably
a while ago.
It was a really long time ago. It was in the early stages of everything, right?
So it had to be around, I'd say 2012, maybe.
No, so 555 it started in 2013. And then Facebook Messenger, let's say, came around like 14 or 15. So I'd say right around 15, let's say.
Okay. Yeah, that would make sense, actually. Yeah.
But one day I got a Facebook message from what I thought was myself, because it said Robert Piparo. And that's where kind of the big balls came out, because do you go by Rob or do you go by Pip? What do you actually go by?
So so in the firehouse and wherever I'm working, I work for a safety consulting company that does technical rescue. Everybody calls me Pippy. I got Rob. My parents call me Bobby.
Oh, I'm not a Bobby. I am not a Bob.
Yeah, yeah. Some of my old friends back from elementary school and in high school, they'll call me Bobby. And everybody else knows me as Pip.
It's so fucking hysterical. I'm just gonna say this, right? Like, so what happened was Pip sent me a message on Facebook and was basically like, as I recall the message going, like, hey man, I'm tired of getting messages for you. Could you please stop being big on Facebook? Right? Is that kind of the gist of it, right?
It was right along the lines there, because I had people reaching out to me from all over the country. Are you Pip? I'm like, yeah, I'm Pip, but I don't have 555 fitness.
So this was like the early on days of Facebook too. Well, not early on days of Facebook, but like you couldn't say that like I was one of the owners of the 555 fitness page. It was just 555 fitness. We didn't really put anything out there too much, except, I would do a lot of interviews about it, I guess, at the time, right? That's probably what led people to you. So you had reached out to me and I was just like, this is crazy. Like, we have the same name.
Same name.
Which is not very common, right? Like, not
It's not a
necessarily
common name. And the last name, I mean, there's just a handful that I've found in the Northeast. So
Yeah, most of the ones that I know I'm related to. There was a time though where early on in Facebook, like pre 555, some guy made a group of us that was like, your last name's Piparo. Let's all be in a group together. But I got out of that shit like a month into it.
oh yeah,
There
oh
was
yeah.
just some, that was like the early days of this social media thing could be really crazy.
Yes, absolutely.
So what gets weirder about Pip and I though is that not only do we share the same exact name, but we are both firefighter you're a paramedic, right? Is that
I'm
correct?
paramedic, yep. 20
Firefighter
years.
paramedic. Yep. We both are on the vertically challenged side.
Oh
Uh
yeah.
we both have an affinity for fitness. And so those couple topics there, I think if I and again I'm trying to recall the story like more appropriately or however, that kind of let us, okay, let's be friends then. We can talk about some stuff because
Sure,
we have these common
absolutely.
interests, right?
It got weirder.
And then it got weirder. Yeah. So we were talking about this like jokes guys play on us at the firehouse. That we also worked on the same exact shift for a while.
That's where it really became incredibly weird. Like, okay, so we're on the same 24/72 rotation here. And
Then,
yeah, everybody, yeah, they put the step ladder in, they'll put a stool, the car seat in the chauffeur's seat there. Yeah, okay, fine. We're short. We get it.
right, we're joking around with our short jokes here back and forth, and then it just got weirder because we're both married to physician assistants.
Yes. The so many coincidences that it was very weird.
It just kept, like I said, it just kept getting weirder, but it just kept getting cooler. Now, for the folks that haven't turned this off yet, because they're like, this is just going to be these two dudes kind of broing out about the fact that they have all these coincidences. We did at the time too just start talking about random stuff together throughout this. And this little quick 3 minute segment is actually spun over like 3 or 4 years of just internet chatting. And this is the first time we've ever actually spoken to each other, not
Yes.
in a
Yeah.
text form.
Yes. Yes. And we're not very far away from each other either.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. We're only probably about for like three and a
what,
half hours, I guess, 4 hours.
3.5 hours? Yeah.
Yeah, right in there. And it was just this complete randomness, right? Where I'm like, yeah, there's this dude, and people never believe me. Like I've talked about it on other podcasts that there's another guy out there, like that you're out there.
You know what prompted me actually also to look you up? It was the first responder newspaper.
Oh,
Um
okay.
that it Somebody from the firehouse, showed me like, look at this guy's name. I'm like, huh, no kidding. And then all of a sudden I started getting a lot of those messages on Facebook Messenger. And from there, I remember seeing that article in, I think it was yeah, First Responder News.
Yeah, yeah. I wrote for them for about 6, 8 months or so. Way, way, way back in the day. I guess it's scary when you say that too, that like 2015 was way, way, way back in the day. But
I know it's scary.
considering my kids say I was born in olden times when they talk about the 80s. So
Yeah, that's the generational gap. Is
it's
That's
a
the
hundred.
scary part.
Oh, I just saw something the other day. It was like the launch of MTV is now further away from today than it was from the bombing of Pearl Harbor.
Don't say that. Yeah.
It's a bad one, right? Because when you think about like your age and you think about events that happened in your life, like I was like, I guess MTV was 81 or 82. So I was like 3 then. But, as you grew up and they talked about Pearl Harbor, you're like, that was
Was
forever
so
ago.
long ago, right?
It would have been
Yeah.
like Jesus times if you,
Right, right.
and
So now,
now that's MTV to kids probably.
yeah, and they'll never have the satisfaction of actually seeing music videos like we did.
No, not
So
at all. Not even close. Well, there is my son, my older one, Finn, talks about videos on TikTok and things, so that are kind of like what I would say we equate to music videos because it's the
sure.
artist doing, it's probably only a minute of their song. But they'll also miss out on like the genre shows, and I just saw another one not too long
I
ago
was
where,
a Headbangers Ball kid, so
oh dude, my brother, so I was a headbangers ball. I was a little bit of everything in that age, but my brother played hockey in California with Ricky Rackman, and he's like, "Do you know this
oh my
guy?"
god.
And I'm like, "Do I know that guy, dude? He's like the headbangers ball guy. Please tell me you know Ed Lover and Dr. Dre," but he didn't know them.
Oh,
But right, they miss out on those shows like Remote Control and Headbangers Ball. Like you had that was almost like your life that they don't have right now.
yeah, yeah, very nostalgic.
Yeah,
So
it's always fun to look back on that, but that's kind of the thing too, where now they have social media and you can have these random connections, and so many of them have happened to me. And you know, people come into your life. My wife uses, especially in her job now with palliative care, you know, that there's a reason and a season for everyone and everything in your life. And I feel like with social media, for us, we got that pre-social media reason and seasons. Then we got this social media, you know, cool. We can meet different people and make new friendships and relationships and things. Now I don't know where we're going to with it all.
oh, the artificial intelligence, it's taken over the world.
Yeah, oh, that is a whole new ball game. I do like that when they like they'll do like they asked AI to make a famous person someone else or something like that. I've been enjoying seeing those
Yeah,
recently.
those are pretty hilarious.
I'm interested if it ever comes to like the National Fire Radio world. Like we asked AI to make the National Fire Radio guys the Avengers and see what happens or something.
You should come on. Be
I'm sure.
the faceplate for the tag on the Instagram.
Yeah, I'm sure Sebi can figure that one out. So I got my Sebi mention in too. But so so it's been cool talking to Pip this whole time just about different things. And we both had a lot of things happen to us in our lives. But before, you know, we go into more of our story, and this is for the listeners and for me, like what's kind of your backstory? Like growing up, like you grew up in the New York area, upstate New York. Like give us a little bit of that info.
So I'm from Albany, New York, and ended up going to high school, graduated from Columbia High School in 2001. From that point, I was in the volunteer fire service from like 1998 through 2002. Um, and from there, I went to Hudson Valley Community College, where I received my paramedic in 2003 and went right to work. So been a paramedic for 20 years. A lot of different uh, experiences as a paramedic. Federal agencies, a first response fly car. As part of a medical helicopter team for several years in Philadelphia, and then so happened to end up on the Saratoga Springs Fire Department, where I am currently employed.
That's a big
I
commute
would
from Albany to Philadelphia just to fly in a helicopter. Did
no,
you
yeah, I lived there for a bit. That was an interesting area. I wasn't a big city boy. I didn't, when you turn the lights off at your house at night, it was still had that orange hue. You couldn't quite
the still
sleep.
bright
So
city light? So for folks too listening, you know, around the world, around our country, there is a place called New York State. You know, I know there's New York City, and everybody thinks when they, especially in the fire service world too, and I'm sure you get this one, like if you say like I'm a firefighter in New York, then that automatically means the FDNY.
FDNY,
Like
FDNY. Yeah.
that's it. We just can't, you know, no one can get away from them. I say I'm
I think I,
a career
I think
firefighter in New Jersey.
FDNY.
People are like, you
You
get
know,
paid in New Jersey? I thought they only got paid in FDNY. Like,
no, no. I think FDNY has more guys on three pieces of apparatus than we do on our whole shift. So
Saratoga Springs is kind of like north central New York, I guess, in the state.
it'd be like north, sort of the eastern part. We're in the foothills of the Adirondack Mountains. We're unique, as much of New York State is losing people, losing population. Our city is growing and consistently growing. We have a very large influx of visitors with the track season. We have the oldest horse racing track in the country. We also have a large venue called SPAC. It's an amphitheater that brings in tens of thousands of people for concerts. And the downtown, the Broadway street fronts they draw a lot of visitors as well. So we get that influx definitely in the summertime when the track's in season. Travers Day is the biggest event for the summer. It's kind of like the cap off the summer. And we, so with the city growing, our department's growing. We just added another fire station. We're putting another company in service. I don't know when that's going to be, but should be in the very near future. So it's
It's so
pretty
cool
fortunate to be.
to see a place like that growing. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
because I've been there. I went there a long time ago, like pre-Finn. We went on my wife and I jumped in our Mini Cooper and we just started driving north, and we ended up in Canada. Is the easiest way I can explain that trip.
It's pretty much, yeah. We're closer to Canada, to the Canadian border, than we are to New York City.
And it was cool. We did like a day, maybe a day or two in Saratoga Springs, just because some cool place to stop, and see and do, and you have that cool little, like you said, Main Street or Broadway, I
Yeah,
guess.
the Broadway. Yep.
And those are way older buildings down there that have been just adapted throughout the years, right?
Yeah, yeah. They're like a bunch of like cut up Type 3 buildings, and they've modernized them, and now they've gone off the back with a bunch of Type 5 construction, and they like the Adelphi Hotel is probably tripled in size since I've been there, and they just keep adding and adding, and it's beautiful. It's kind of a unique touch, to keep the aesthetics, yet there's still modern twist to everything.
I didn't really think about that, but now that I'm thinking back to when I was there, you have that main street, and like you said, they've gone off the back because it's not like a main street and then another main street. It's that main street with nothing behind it but smaller streets. So they can just keep growing backwards to keep that aesthetic
Yeah,
in the front
yeah,
and make a deeper building, which makes for a whole new issue, sort of.
yeah. It's pretty interesting, and like the I like to see. It's hard to describe how it is, the actual geographic location, but we go from urban to rural. Like there's like no buffer.
Yeah, you just
Um,
drive through the sticks or like you drive, it's not
that's
even
it.
sticks, you just drive through nothing. And then all of a
Yeah,
sudden you're in your city.
right. And then that's it. And then you'll have another small city, 25 minutes north, Glens Falls. They're another career department, and
Oh,
all the
I
way up
think I
to
know some.
Plattsburgh.
I think I know somebody on Glen Falls, which is weird too, because that's another small department, but that's for
Yes.
another day. In another weird coincidence, which I didn't know, I too went to county college. Not to get my paramedic though. Well, I mean, I eventually got my paramedic through a different county college, but after high school, I went to county college and left to pursue a career in EMS. So that's more weirdness that we just discovered.
Yes, yes.
So you did some time in Philly doing a flight thing. How did you pick, or how did you land, I should say, in Saratoga Springs? Because it's not your hometown. Albany's probably 2 hours from Saratoga Springs, right?
No, oh, no, no. Albany's it's about 45 miles south
Okay.
of Saratoga. What drew me up to that area, my wife, um, who
You'll have
was
that.
who is a PA at the Saratoga Hospital. Um, the mountain biking scene. We have a tremendous mountain biking scene. I happen to live on Daniels Road, which there's the Daniels Road State Forest, and we have like 25 miles of just some of the meanest single track in the Northeast. I had been going there for about 22 years, and that's how I ended up there. I was working for the town of Colony at the time, a pretty progressive paramedic agency. Dating my wife, and she, just being up and immersed in the Saratoga area. I'm like, I'm going to take the civil service test. I'm already in the civil service system, so took the test, got hired.
Oh,
Building
oh,
our career, building our life.
so all your time got to transfer over?
It goes on the back half, I
Okay.
think. New York State's a little confusing,
They're all
so I'll
confusing. You
have to
don't have to get
I'll have to talk to somebody in civil service about how this all happens.
Isn't it crazy when we talk about our careers and in my opinion, being in civil service is way better than not being in civil service because you
I
have
would
a lot
agree.
of protections and things like that. However, the system itself, no matter where you are, seems to be the most confusing thing everywhere.
Yeah, I don't know how people actually get a handle on what's going on. Oh, they talk about 60th and retirement, this, padding this, and I just say, I'm gonna give it to my financial advisor and let him figure it out for me. So,
So one, I guess like a positive post COVID is that our state civil service has started holding way more seminars about how to retire, let's say, how
oh,
to
that's
go through,
nice.
not like how, like what you should do when you retire, but like how to go through all the paperwork and things. Because I think they discovered during COVID just how little, or either how screwed up their system was or how little we all knew about what we were supposed to do.
Well, they hit you with that barrage of paperwork when you're signing over yourself to take the position, expecting you're gonna read every line, and
True story.
I was just excited,
Yeah, that's it. You're so
So
excited.
yeah,
You
sure, I'll
got
sign.
the
Yeah,
job. Yeah, whatever you need.
that's
I'm in.
it.
I'm in.
Yeah,
Jackpot.
20 years
I'm
will
in.
be good. Good job. Great.
We'll see in 20.
So,
We have the same thing. And then two, I'm imagining it probably works the same for you, but we have contracts that go with our city, but our
mhm.
retirement comes from the state. But the city has to kind of play ball with the state and play ball with you. And there's a lot of things that have to come together. It's not just like, okay, I'm retiring. Thank you.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely there's same, in the state retirement system, the city speaks to the state and then the union speaks to the city and there's our contract and it gets
It
there's a
gets
lot of
crowded.
red tape.
Yeah, it's definitely something, and I have talked a lot about recently about retirement because I do about 5 years ago till I can do it, and it's something that it's crazy that I'm starting now, not just to talk about it, but to figure out the steps I have to take to get to it.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to be like we've had some folks work 6, 8 months longer than they had planned on just because of the red tape, I guess is a good way to put it.
Yeah, that seems to be kind of the common theme, especially in our department. Right now we have a very young department.
Who
Uh,
doesn't?
we
Who doesn't? But
yeah, we've hired so many new folks. They're all wonderful. They're eager, and we're still growing. Like when I started, we had 66 members, and I believe we're gonna pass the 100 member mark this year.
it's
So
awesome. We just did.
we've
We
had
just went over 100.
significant growth.
And
You
especially
know,
too, if you're building a new station, there are some departments that build a new station, add a company, don't add new people. Like you get the new rig, you get the new station, but you have to make do with what you have. So knowing you guys are
yeah,
people is huge.
yeah. Our union's been pretty fortunate, and they've been very proactive in growing the numbers, increasing our staffing power, and the city's obviously been very integral in that. So we're pretty fortunate right now.
Yeah, it's good when you have that too, right? Because people don't understand that it takes all the sides working together, right? As the labor side, we always want more people because we know that more people help solve the problem faster is an easy way to put that.
Right, right.
More
And
people.
that's one thing when with the you go into that, when we talk about doing, more with less, there's the firefighter burnout, the fatigue, compassion fatigue, and uh, it's just it's we're fortunate again that our union in our city is, they take that into account, so we can try to, combat those sort of that leads to loss.
And that word, all those things you just said, that's being proactive. It's good to have a
Yes.
proactive city, a proactive union, a proactive department, proactive members. Um,
Yes.
it's not exactly though something like proactively sexy to talk about, let's say, right? Like it's not the cool
So
training or the technical rescues or anything, but it's something that
no.
has to be spoken about.
So when I have newer members come in to my shift, I I essentially tell them like, listen, you're a paid problem solver because we're gonna go on EMS calls, we're gonna go on car crashes, we're gonna go on gas leaks, and we're gonna go on a fire occasionally, and then we're gonna get everything in between. You know, there's gonna be fuel spills, yada yada yada. You may have to clean somebody up in their own filth.
Yep.
You're a paid problem solver. And that's what we're here to do. We're professional problem solvers. Uh, they it took the all hazards approach and really just capitalized on it. So when you sort of change that approach and the mentality of, I'm not grabbing a hook and can on every single day and going into a smoky building, and you become a little more realistic in what your job duty yeah, I'm going to go on a lot of EMS calls, I'm going to go on a lot of alarm drops, and a lot of CO calls, and occasionally I get to fight a fire and use my skills. I think that puts it into more realistic, uh more digestible terms for the newer members, because everywhere there it's the same thing.
Yeah, there's no difference everywhere. And that problem that you're going to solve, no matter how big or how small it may seem to the person that's calling you, it is the worst problem they could ever be having.
Sure, absolutely.
And that's something too that has to get taken into account when you're solving these folks' problems. And most of the time they are so happy that you've helped them. I mean, just my last shift, we did 3 elevators, all with people in them. Like going on 3 elevator calls that's a kind of a normal thing for us now. But all of the
Yeah,
elevators actually had people in them that were very thankful when we said, you can come out of the elevator now. It's not stuck anymore.
yeah, and you solved their problem. There you
Yep. And
go.
that's it, man. You're there to solve the problem. And so when your department is also taking that proactive stance and growing and looking out for all these back end things, and maybe not even knowing it, the city may not even know about compassion fatigue or anything like that.
Right.
But if you're doing a good job of educating them about it and telling them they're preventing these things from happening, the bottom line being the dollars spent on us, the employee, that's going to help you guys out too a lot.
Yes, and we are pretty fortunate that the city takes such an active role in us. We when we talk about compassion fatigue, that's something that's pretty near and dear to my heart. I myself have experienced and still to this day work with post traumatic stress, anxiety, depression. It is a byproduct of the job, um, and I'm very open about my stories. Um, you know, and one thing I do like to tell the newer members is, hey, this job could change you. Make sure you have a life outside of the job. Make sure you don't, if you want to take overtime, but make sure you also take time for yourself. Make sure you take time to sleep. Make sure you take time to eat right. Have something outside of this, because the calls are going to come. The calls are going to come no matter what. They're always going to be there. And there's always going to be a need for somebody to fill that. But that person doesn't always have to be you.
That's the key line right there, right? That person doesn't always
Yes.
have to be you.
Right.
And to go with our story a little bit more, because, I knew we were going to talk about this part of it at some point. And I still have some questions that I want to go back and ask, but we'll get there
Sure. Yeah,
more into
absolutely.
this one for sure. But like, I had noticed that Pip wasn't on social media anymore. Like I didn't notice it like every day. Like, hey, where's this guy who's got the same name as me? but I just noticed like I don't see him posting that much anymore. Whatever, like move on. And that's my day. And then one day you kind of reappeared on my feed somehow. And I can't remember if I messaged you or you messaged me, just like, hey, what's up, bro? Long time no talk. But I know that's where you sort of shared your stories, your story
Yes.
of coming to this conclusion, right? That you were suffering from PTSD or compassion fatigue.
Yeah. It was definitely, I remember clear as day. I finished up a call around Christmas time, working in arrests. The guy had the same birth year as me, and somebody carried his toddler past me. And the gentleman that had passed away was heavily involved in using substances and alcohol, and very, very tragic scene. um and it doesn't have to be the major car crash or the gory, bloody, whatever. This was just a dead human around Christmas time. And around me I could see all the Christmas stuff, and I just remember going numb. And thereafter, I stopped eating, I wasn't sleeping, and I don't really drink alcohol, so I didn't have to worry about going down that rabbit hole. Or I don't use substances, so I didn't have to worry about going down that rabbit hole. Thank God, because that could have been a very slippery slope for me.
Sure.
Um, but I knew something was wrong. Um, and then all of a sudden, all the bad calls that I had been on up until that point, which this was back in 2015, they decided to come and visit me in about a period of 2 minutes, and I was just like, oh my God, something is absolutely wrong here. And I didn't really know how to approach it. And so there was a couple firefighters that I worked with that they're retired now, but they had gone through similar events, and they kind of guided me. Uh, hey, this is what I did. This is who I see. And, I still see the same therapist then that I do. I see her now. Back when I first started dealing with this, and there were red flags for the last 10 years before this happened. Like,
Yeah, but you don't know
uh,
they're red flags. They're just
yeah, you don't know,
life.
but now looking back on it, you're like, holy moly. You go years without acknowledging that you've seen bad stuff, and bad stuff sucks to see, and it's not normal. um
I think that's the key right there, right? Is that you go years with seeing this bad stuff and you don't even process it as being bad because
no,
it's just your
no, right.
job, right? And
You
we
try to
all,
normalize it.
yeah,
um
that's what I see. I,
I
I stepped over a guy in a car accident the other night. We had a pin job. There was a guy laying on the ground. I walked right around him. I mean, there was an EMT taking care of him, but I couldn't even tell you if he was breathing when I looked because I just saw someone taking care of him and just
yeah,
walked
it's
around it to go do my job.
right. And
It's not
it's
normal.
like, it's not normal at all, and it sucks. But and to acknowledge that it sucks, it's not normal, is okay.
Yeah.
It's absolutely okay to say, holy crap, I just, stepped on a crispy person by accident. That was bad. That sucked. That's not normal, you know. So that, when I was diagnosed with PTSD, I was like, yep, this is the end. I don't know what to do. Like I said, some of the firefighters really guided me and helped me out. Um, and of course, you're going to get other people that are like, you can't handle it. Don't, get out of the job.
Of course.
So
And especially
whatever.
2015, if this is 2015, 2016, way different world than where we're in
Yeah,
today,
I mean,
for
yeah,
sure.
this is right at the end of 2015.
Yeah.
So I was off for several months. My chief was very understanding. He's like, get yourself squared away, figure it out. So I did. I go to, I see the same, like I said, the same therapist now that I did then. She was very focused in mindfulness and energy healing, and that the most important thing was to find the right therapist. I had gone to 2 prior to that, and one of them started crying. I was like, "Oh,
Oh, like
am I
listening to
here
your
for
story.
you? Am I here for you, or are you here for me?"
Okay. It's like
Um,
you're doing your job, right? You're here to solve her problem.
yeah, they said you dealt with post-traumatic stress, and I'm telling you some nasty stories here. So
Don't mean to laugh, but like that's just one of those things that you're like, oh my God, this just happened to me. Like I'm here to tell
yeah,
you how I'm having problems helping other people, and now I'm helping you.
now she was having the breakdown. I was like, "Oh man, this is wild." So now I had, it took a little while, found the right therapist. My wife was an absolute trooper through all this. Being a PA, she was able to, kind of ground me and
Oh, I
center
know.
me, help me out.
Oh, I
Um,
know.
she was an absolute trooper, and so
I
and
think that
again,
that's another thing too, though. So when you're trying to find which therapy works for you or which therapist is the best fit for you, folks in our positions, we don't want to do, I don't want to say we don't want to do the work, but like it's just like us. Someone has a problem, we go, we solve it, we leave. So you
that's
think
it.
you're, hey, I need help, right? I'm having these problems. I'm gonna go get help and leave. And that's not how that system works at all.
No, it's definitely it's interesting because you have to put a lot of work into it. Um, and when you acknowledge that there's, some compassion fatigue, depression, anxiety, PTSD, um, and this is why I know people that struggle with substances. A lot of times, they go and have a drink or whatever, and it takes that idea of having to do the work away. The work is the bottle.
The work is done.
Take the
I can
work's
do the work
done right
really
there.
easy right here. Watch me.
Right, right. So, when and like I said, I'm fortunate that I didn't have that issue, but I could see how it could be very complicated, um, with you know with somebody with those issues.
I think
And
too.
again, when I was going through this, it was a very dark time. There's ideations, there's obsessive thoughts, and the taboo is you know call the suicide hotline. Especially and if anybody's listening, if you're struggling, call 988. That's a big step. There's no weakness in calling for that. And so, like I said, I was in a very dark place, and my wife really stood by me. She was an absolute trooper, and there were a few things that I did. I was very proactive as I took my day apart, um, minute by minute. I took my day apart minute by minute, and then realizing minute by minute, I'm going to go and do something. I'm going to put one foot in front of the other, or I'm going to get on my mountain bike, one pedal stroke after the next, or I'm going to go and down to my fly tying vise and take one wrap of thread around a feather at a time. And minute by minute became hour by hour. Then it's day by day. Now it's week by week. Now it's who I am. I live with it, and I have a very deep mental health toolbox now. So
I love that. And that's such a new term, that mental health toolbox, right? Because we all probably have them and didn't even realize we had them.
right, right,
Definitely didn't realize the importance of them. And even when you know you have one, right? I know I have one. I've talked about it on multiple episodes now.
yeah,
And even for me, I just recently, you know, couldn't figure out the tool to pull out. And I'm still kind of searching in the toolbox for the tool to pull out for what's going on with me these days. But the
yeah,
fact that I'm searching for it is key, right?
absolutely. I mean, when you feel that your mental health, your stress, anything that's starting to build that has any sort of effect, uh, y- you know, it's not going to be the one quick fix always. So, like you say, searching for that. Education had become a huge component for me. Uh, I wanted to know why. At first, I was like, "Ah, I'm broken. My brain's broke. I'm never going to be normal again." Um, um, when you catastrophize everything, you're like, "I'm going to be homeless. I'm going to be, living in a cardboard
Yeah.
box
Yep.
and not know where my next meal is coming from, and I'm going to, die cold and hungry." So I wanted to know why my thoughts were that way, why seeing human suffering made me that way. Um, and then, lo and behold, so right now I'm finishing up my doctorate from Massachusetts College of Pharmacy and Health Science in
Awesome.
public health.
That's a huge
Yeah.
difference between that Robert Piparo and this Robert Piparo right there. There's a huge difference between the two of us right there. So that's the smart. When it's Robert Piparo PhD, they're gonna know it's automatically you and not me, buddy. So congrats to you on that. And it's even better because when I just learned this information about Pip when coming up for this podcast, and when I told my wife, she looked at me and she's like, "Well, that'll be a big different one for you, buddy, because you're not getting that PhD after your name like he is."
Yeah,
So,
I
so
get called nerd all the time, and
she
a lot of the
literally,
guys have watched me, come to the firehouse exhausted and being like, "Yeah, I gotta go read, gotta go do this." And my capstone in dissertation was in community paramedicine, and kind of trying to reduce the burden on EMS, which may help the fatigue that we see.
for sure,
But there's been for my master's, I did some research with Dr. Denise Smith from Skidmore College. She's like the who's who when it comes to firefighter health and physiology, and we took some huge data sets from just around the country in firefighters with their cardiovascular fitness scores, and sleep scores, and applied it to what mental health could be going on there. So there's obviously a direct correlation in mental health and physical health. It's there. There's lots of
beyond the fire service, that's just your body in
yes,
general.
yeah, just
Like,
just and if you have unmanaged depression or anxiety, you could be predisposed to hypertension, which can lead to cardiovascular disease and so on. So I did that. That was a very uh I don't want to call it fun because it was not fun because you're
rewarding.
looking at
When you say
you're
rewarding, let's say rewarding.
it was rewarding, but you're also like, damn, I'm looking at myself as a statistic here.
True.
I don't sleep very well. I don't have hypertension or anything like that, but I'm like, I could develop. Jesus. So then your anxiety kicks in a little bit while you're looking at these huge data sets. But
That's where
that's
you
for
reach
another
into
day.
that toolbox again. You get into your mental
Now you
health
got to reach
toolbox.
into the toolbox. And also currently, with our fire department growing the way it is, we're going to see a huge uh, group of retirements. So that prompted me to think, all this stuff coming out through the PFAS and PFOA. I wanted to start a non-communicable disease screening program for our
Like
members.
the first thing I would have thought of with all that in my head. I'm right there with you.
Yeah, so coming up a little bit after the first of the year, we're gonna offer it to our members. They're gonna be able to get screened. They'll be able to have blood work. They'll be able to have their organs scanned, and kind of have, especially the ones that are retiring, hopefully a peace of mind that you know y-
I like
your
I like
time
to that.
was amazing. We value it, and we want you to have a peace of mind going forward.
I like too that you're calling it like a non-communicable disease scanning because you start throwing the words cardiovascular, you start throwing the words cancer around, and people automatically even though you want to know these things, those words make it, I don't want to know these things, maybe.
Right, right.
Like, I don't
So
want to know this.
yeah, so that's and it's gonna look for other things too. Like, if you get your blood drawn and you got a fatty liver, hey,
Yeah.
we know that.
Good to
Now
know.
we
And
know
you
that.
could just have a fatty liver. Nothing to do with being a firefighter or
Right.
drinker or
It could
anything.
be
It just could be the
just
way you were
life.
born. Yeah. Just
Right.
like,
And so yeah, I think it's important, but especially with the confounding factors of being in the fire service, the stress of the tones going on and on and on and on, that adds an element of pathophysiology to the body.
do you know, it's just the other night, sitting in the ladder truck on a alarm, and the dispatcher comes across and he's like, stand by for a second assignment. Right. We're all out on this alarm now. And I'm like, this mother effer is going to hit those tones. And he does. And I'm like, but we're all listening. Like, I don't need, the tone doesn't make me go like, I'm a fireman. I have to go on a call. You could have literally just said, like, called command, called our chief and said, I have a second assignment. This is it. Who would you? But nope, those tones had to drop.
Yeah, I think they're just like pre-programmed to
Yeah,
be hit, and they're exposed to those
for
stressors
sure.
too.
I was a
And
dispatcher. That was a stress that I was a young dispatcher. So I went from community college to working on the bus to into dispatch like 2 years later or whatever, EMS dispatch. And I didn't even realize I was taking some of those incidents home with me. I had a paramedic have a cardiac arrest while I was working in dispatch. So I'm on the other end of that radio call. We had
mm,
like several, CPR instructions on the phone, my famous cat call, which I've talked about on other episodes, but like I never realized until I started going to therapy, all those things added up to eventually my cup becoming overfilled.
yes, yeah, and it's crazy when that happens because at that point in time, something's wrong,
Yeah.
but you don't know what it is.
And you don't want to admit there's something wrong either.
No, you don't want to say, "Hey, dude, this is tough." So
It's so like I hate using the word crazy, but like I didn't see this episode going this far down this path, and you said so many amazing things, and I'm like, dude, I've been friends with this guy for like 7 years, and I didn't even know a quarter of the stuff you just dropped on me in the past 20 minutes. Let's say it's like,
well,
so then I think to myself, am I like a bad internet friend that I didn't get more in?
I mean, I have the 555 app. I still use it. There's workouts. That you're a great internet friend.
But it's these
So
things, right? This is how we think of ourselves, right? Like I don't know. I think that's something that separates emergency responders from the rest of the population, is the way that we kind of think about ourselves. And by emergency responders too, the helpers that are out there, just like our wives being physician assistants. We're
right.
always looking to help. And so now in my head, I'm wondering, have I really helped this guy? Like, did I do what I should have done to help him out?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it was great, especially like early on when we first started talking with each other. Um, we did kind of touch the subject about post traumatic stress and not having some mental health issues, and that to me was always hearing the story of somebody else going through it is it always takes the sharpness away, a degree for me.
Of your own.
Yeah, yeah, it's always, I think it's so beneficial, and it humanizes it. It allows us to know that we're not in the fight alone. Um, you know, even if you were to call me at 3 o'clock in the morning and say, "Dude, I had a bad call, and I'm afraid to be alone with my thoughts right now." That's what we're here for, and say, "Yeah, okay, what's up? Tell me about it."
It's the normalization of it all, right? And it's
Yeah.
definitely in our careers because we're on around the same career trajectory, the
Mhm.
change in making it normal. When I got hired, the 25-year guys, the 25-year guys, they came from the rub the dirt on it generation.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah.
But then, you know what I think back before that, because my dad was on the job, when those guys, so my 25-year guy, when he came on the job, my dad was that 20, 25, or a little less than that, but you know what I mean? And my dad was in a totally different generation. So it's
Sure,
just like us
sure.
now being in this generation, and just telling you about the other night, I just kind of realized that my rookie that was with me, yeah, my rookie that was with me, that was probably his first bad wreck, I think.
Mm, that's
And
tough.
yeah, and I didn't really, other things happened and then we went home. But like I haven't really thought to reach out to him just because it wasn't the like there wasn't much uh like there was, it wasn't like people were injured and you see the bodily injury, you know what I mean? Like they weren't very dramatic injuries. They were definitely injured, there was definitely someone pinned, but
Hmm.
it wasn't like, you know, where we think of these things like someone died, someone was missing an arm, your normal let's have a post-traumatic stress talk.
Right, right.
Now it's more of these things that I don't want him in 20 years, that to be the impetus of his cup starting without it being able to be drained. Is that an easy way to put it?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think building that mental toolbox up early in life is so important. Um, Again, that when I started as a paramedic, it's like, oh, if somebody was maimed and dead, you're like, yeah, this is my job. Got to do it.
Yeah, that's it.
Next,
And go on
next
to the next
call.
one, right? Go on
Yeah.
to the next one. And in EMS, that is still
Oh my
the
God, it's a
truest of true
grind.
story. Oh, sorry, you just had a pediatric cardiac arrest. There's three in the queue. You got to go take
Yeah,
another one.
it's a grind. It's an absolute grind, and
Do you
that's
still
why you're
work as a
seeing so much.
paramedic, like on the bus or just at the firehouse?
Right now, I'm assigned to a quint,
Gotcha.
and so, but I do take my time to go back onto the ambulance. My last shift on Saturday, I worked on the ambulance, and it's fun. It's fun to work with the younger guys coming in. I really enjoy it. I'm often a preceptor. When our medics come out of medic school, I'll take the time to ride on the ambulance with them. Um, but it is tiring.
Yeah,
It's
that's why I
tiring.
stopped. One of the
And my
reasons
hat's
I
off
stopped.
to them. My hat's off to them. It's a grind for a couple of years for some of them. Because we go based on seniority or riding seat, and you know.
No, I try to explain that to our folks who've never worked on an ambulance. Like when we see the people that are working on the private service EMS that we work with, like remember, dude, they're getting paid in your first year not much more than you are, and they're doing triple the work. Like we have to appreciate that end of it. You know,
Yeah.
they're a grind. We don't know what they're going through, and it's the same when we talk about law enforcement. We don't really know their grind. We just know it's not good.
No, it's
Is an easy way to
unique.
put it.
And that's, the one thing, like with cumulative stress, that's kind of what our, first responders are coined to have this cumulative stress disorder. I don't know what a law enforcement officer is going through. I don't know, when we talk about PTSD, another definition, I don't know what a military person has gone through, but I do know what you've seen.
Yeah.
I do know what, other paramedics have seen. Obviously it's not going to be the same exact thing, but I know those sensations that I hear, see, smell. Smells the big one. Hearing stuff is a big one. It'll bring me right back to something from 20 years ago, instantly. And I'm sure that's the same for you
I
as
think it's the
well.
same for all of us. It's just when you realize it. It's again in
Yeah,
that toolbox, you know, you have your checklist in the toolbox and then you get to the tools.
yeah. So we also started a peer support team at the fire department. There's kind of like a regional peer support team up here there within the, Albany, Schenectady, Troy, Waterville, Saratoga. there was a large regional peer support team building exercise where outside mental health professionals came and taught to develop that. So I hope that gets a little more headway in the near future.
Listen, the mere fact that you're doing it, that's half the battle. You know what I mean? Like that we're already better than we were when we started. Um,
Absolutely.
and I don't think
Absolutely.
we'll ever be perfect because, this is it's
No.
ever evolving. But as long as we're working towards something, that's kind of clutch.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
Sweet, man. So we're getting close to the hour mark, and I wanted to really talk about this. And you mentioned it very, very rapidly, but you were all about fly fishing, which I know nothing
that's
about, and tying these things, right?
yes.
How did that all come into your life? Because this is what you do off the job matters. I feel like that's what you
Yes.
do the most off the job, aside from being a dad, husband, and mountain biker.
So yeah, mountain biking probably comes more than everything. And like you mentioned, I'm a father. My son Gabriel's going to be 4 on the 14th, so it's pretty
Nice.
exciting.
Good stuff, especially
Um,
around Christmas too. Even cooler.
oh yeah, super fun though. So um, yeah, tying flies. I knew, I've been a fisherman, fly fisherman for a lot of years, and you'd go and waste all this money on buying flies. Those little itty bitty flies are like $2 a pop. So all of a sudden you notice you spent $100. So I'm like, oh, I'm gonna save
A
money,
lot of
so I'm gonna tie
flies. You need
flies.
you need that
Yeah, a
many
lot of
flies?
flies. I'm gonna save some money and tie my own flies. Well, yeah, you don't save money because you just blow it on all sorts of materials, vices, thread, wire,
Magnifying
beads,
glasses, magnifying glass.
magnifying glass. Oh yeah, I got the little 3x cheaters that I
I think I
wear.
actually asked you one day, I'm like, what the hell are you doing with these pictures you're posting on social media, bro? It's like super close,
So
super magnified.
yeah, man, those things are awesome. I actually bring them to work every now and again to read books, because my eyes are getting a little old.
I feel you.
But anyhow, I needed something, and again, this it kept my mind occupied to be able to focus on something so small, and it kept my hands busy. So if your hands and your mind are busy, it allows you to kind of really put the focus into one small task. And that task was to turn that thread over a hook for me. And I found that to be therapeutic. So I would get into my little fly tying table in the basement and turn some thread over the hooks over a piece of feather and bead to try and match a pattern that I see online or in a book to create, a zebra midge, or you create a woolly bugger worm, they call them. And, all these patterns, you would replicate them time and time again and put your own spin on them, change the color of the feathers. And it was very therapeutic to me. Um,
Awesome.
so when your mind and your hands are doing something in sync with each other, it really allows you to kind of have uh, that moment of zen, and have that. Yeah, it was a form of meditation for me to come away from everything. So
It's pretty amazing too, like when you get that feeling that what you're doing, you're having fun with, and it's helping you in so many different ways that you don't even realize it. And then the next thing you know, you do realize it, and you're like, that's the aha moment, right?
yes, yeah, oh, absolutely. So when I look at this outside of the having something outside the job, I was reading John Kabat-Zinn, and the he was more about the moment of mindfulness and having that now moment. And he says meditation could be as simple as the silence between words in a sentence. Well, meditation for me was a turn of the thread around the hook. or placing the next feather or putting a bead on a hook. I mean, mind you, I feel like a diabetic checking my blood sugar half the time because I poke my fingers left, right, and sideways. Um but yeah, it became that moment of mindfulness to me. And right now I'm not tying as much as I normally do, just because I'm finishing up the doctorate program.
Probably
um
taking up the majority of your free time.
yeah, it kind of
Kind of a
takes a
big deal,
big
dude.
this kind of come May, it'll be all over, and I'm pretty pumped. So
That is so awesome, dude. And it's so cool to hear you kind of describe this because, when we think about finding things off the job to occupy our minds, obviously fitness is something big for you, something big
Mhm.
for me. For you, it's been mountain biking. People generally find like a more, I guess, aggressive outlet, let's say, like they'll do martial arts or they'll be a runner. I think
Sure.
you're the first person I really know to have such a passive thing to occupy your mind, but it makes so much sense when you say it because I kind of do the same with my son's Legos, to be honest with you. Except
Sure.
I put the lights on the Legos. Like he does the humongous Lego, and then I pay money for the aftermarket lights, and I'll sit there and light them up, and it's so.
That's awesome. That's
I didn't
so
even
awesome.
realize it till you just were talking about that catharticness of what you did. But I just did the Eiffel Tower that he built over a year ago, and I just have been not doing. And I'm like, I felt really good when I was doing that. Like it was
Absolutely.
that focus, right?
Yeah, I sort of fell into that too. Like my son has magnet tiles.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I was like, we bought all sorts of magnet tiles, and here I am. I'm building all sorts of towers with it, and I'm like, yeah, yeah, this is nice.
You'll see. You'll get to
So,
the sad moment. We used to build Legos together, and then he was like, "No, Dad, I'm good. I'm gonna do this by myself now."
oh, oh, that's gonna break my heart.
It's a hard day, man. That's a rough one. But if you find the next thing, like these lights, I'm like, I'll do the lighting. I
Ah,
can handle
come on,
this.
man, let's do these lights together.
Yeah, that lasted about 3 seconds because he's like, "You're destroying my Lego. I don't want you to do." I'm like, "I'm gonna put it back together." Oh no, I lost you.
Oh, jeez, hold on.
There we
What
go.
did I do?
You're back.
There we go.
You're back. But you'll see. It's a cool part of being a dad, is watching all those changes. And then when I did it, both my kids were like, "This is epic." I was like, thanks, guys, man. I really appreciate it, man. And dude, like we gotta, we're getting to this hour mark where we like to keep those, but I feel like there's way more that we have to do. So you're definitely gonna have to come back on, or we'll have to like
I,
co-host the
I
show or something
I'm
like
elated,
this.
man. It was it was very humbling. Thank you for, having me.
It's so cool. Like our story of meeting was, it's just, I'm not even gonna like say this, but I'm like, we gotta have this guy on. This is just like funny. And I knew, you told me a lot about yourself and we've done that, but just the things you said, it just again, so many people are going to get helped by listening to you that I mean, I got helped. I'm going to hang up and call my rookie because I realized I screwed up the other day, like
It's
in a
not a
big
screw
way.
up.
Not a screw up. You're right. But like,
It's not a screw up.
I just didn't do what I should have done quick enough. I didn't even think about doing it until you said that. And I'm like, oh, that makes sense.
And I know what he's gonna say. He's like, yeah, I'm good, dude.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Oh, no, I see stuff like that all the
Yeah, I'm good.
time.
It's good. It's good.
Totally. But you know what, too? It's not doing it if I call them on the phone, too. It's not doing it in front of other people. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And it's
Yeah.
not even like, hey, come with me, let's talk. Because the second you say that anywhere, especially in a firehouse, someone notices, hey, what were you and him talking about alone? Why was the door shut? You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like,
oh yeah. Yeah.
right? It's all these little
Absolutely.
things you don't even realize until you realize
It's
them.
like the eighth grade locker room all over again, man.
It definitely is. But I think, we say that, but that's in every workplace. Like your wife works in a hospital. My wife works in a
Sure.
hospital.
Oh
It's
yeah.
the same crap there, like easily.
Yeah,
What
you're right.
kind of a
You're right.
PA is she? Actually, my wife wanted me to ask you that.
Oh, urology.
You're out. Oh, okay. Well, at least you're good in that world if you ever need anything like that. Like,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've already been taken care of. No more kids.
smart man, very smart man on that one. So, listen, as we get to end the podcast, sort of. Luckily, not on that note, on the urology note. In typical firefighter fashion, this is we have fun and joke. But you ready for these 10 questions, man?
Go for it, man.
All right, here we go. I think I already know this one, but beach or mountains?
Mountains all the way.
Easy enough, man. You look a lot paler than I am, so
Oh yeah, yeah. I don't. I get sunburned quick, so
go with the mountains. Night out or night in?
a night in.
Night in. A good book or a good movie?
Ooh, that's tough. I'll have to go in between in like a good docu-series.
A good docu-series. I like that. I'll go with that one. Cross-country road trip. Who is your celebrity co-pilot?
Celebrity co-pilot. It would probably have to. So this is like total geek. All right.
Go ahead.
The guy's name's Vincent Racaniello.
Okay.
And
Help me out. Help the audience out and me.
He hosts the This Week in Virology podcast. Total geek move. They've been doing virology podcasts before. I mean, since 2008, I believe their first one was, but they really cranked up during during COVID. So
No shit.
I mean, he's like one of the most brilliant minds. So
I'm gonna get right on that, man. I'm gonna get right on that. We're gonna stop. I'm not even calling this kid. I'm just gonna listen to that podcast now, like forever.
It's so
Virology.
awesome.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it's so amazing.
So,
Watch, I'm gonna say that to Tracy, and she's gonna be like, "Oh, I know that guy. I've listened to that podcast." Do you make your bed every day?
no, God, no.
This answer is literally either like yes or God no. Like there's no ever in between.
No, you're gonna mess it up again, anyways.
I'll give you $1 million right now, or you can go back to 18 and get a redo on what you've done. Which one are you taking?
I would take the million.
I like it.
I would take the million.
I feel like the more I thought this was going to be more of a complex question, but most people say they want the million because they can do so much good moving forward than going back and making changes.
Well, and the experiences that I've had, you know, they've made me who I am.
Yeah, for sure.
And allowed me to meet the people who I've met. So
4 more. Here we go. Highways or back roads?
Back roads.
Bucket list place to visit.
That's tough. I would probably say I want to go to Colombia or Bolivia.
Okay.
To go fly fishing for golden dorado.
Yes, more stuff I know nothing about. I mean,
they're massive fish. They're beautiful.
Most people would say they're going to Colombia for a different reason. So you go for fly fishing and you're in. Probably safer that way to get through customs. But I would look up a golden dorado. All right, 2 more. Football or football?
I'm a Bills fan.
Sorry.
I know.
Have you ever jumped through a table?
I've witnessed it. You know, I've seen people do it. A lot of fist fights out there too.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's an interesting place to see a game.
Absolutely.
All right, last one. The best advice you could give to your younger self?
Be kind to yourself.
I like it. Nice, simple, and to the point. And the adding to yourself. That's the key, right? Because we're never kind to ourselves.
No, not at all.
Right? I think that's a big one. So listen, Pip. I feel like so Finn occasionally goes by Pip to some of his friends in the lacrosse world. So I'll call him Pip, but it's very weird to be like, so listen, Pip, this has been amazing, man. I'm so happy we did this. And for one of my 2024 goals is that we physically meet in person.
Yes, we have to. It's been way too long.
It has been, and we got to do this. But I can't thank you enough, for coming on the show. Everyone, if you want to go check out some fly fishing stuff, Instagram is probably the best place to do it, right?
Yes, that's my real social media.
The _flying_Pip. It'll be down below in the show notes. If you're a fly fisher person, or want to get into tying your own flies, I'm sure that Pip can help you out. I can help you out if you'd like to just kind of run your mouth and talk on a podcast or something like that.
Thank you so much, man.
Nah, no worries, man. You be safe out there. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in and listening again, and all the sponsors. And we're just going to keep this thing rocking and rolling here as we get to the end of 2023 and head into 2024. So for the Size Up by National Fire Radio, this has been Pip, because what you do off the job matters.